It's 18 after the hour. He's Phil Jackson, who joins us here in studio. The book, 11 Rings, Soul of Success, hitting the bookstore shelves today. Have you seen The Doors?
No, I never saw the Doors. I understand that being scared of Jim Morrison,
Yeah.
something a little bit untoward.
Are you a big concert guy?
I decided about 10, 12 years ago that I was going to start going to live music again. There was a period of time in the 70s that I went to a lot of live music, but then raising 5 kids, you just fall off the wagon, so to speak. And then did a few Dead concerts in Chicago.
Did you see Walton there?
No, Walton never showed up. His wife did, his former wife,
Yeah.
and Susie. And then, hadn't done a whole lot of live concerts until I got back into L.A. And one of my first days in L.A., Bruce Hornsby, one of my friends associated with Bill Bradley's campaign and, a big Bill Bradley supporter, called me up and said, "Hey, I'm playing at the Greek. Come on down tonight." So I went down to the Greek and started going to the outdoor venues there in L.A., which is a lot of fun.
We had the over-under of 1.5 championship rings. I took the under. And why did you wear only one ring today?
Well, I was, I went on the Twitter world and I did a little entry into them by, doing a typing aired tweet with all these rings on. It's kind of a goofball thing to announce it. In the process, I had to go to a safe deposit box and get all these rings out of safe deposit box. And I tried them on to see which ones fit because that was a neat little shot. And there's only one that fit, and this is the 96, the team that won 72 championships, the fourth title that we had in Chicago. So it's kind of apropos. It's one of the best teams ever to coach.
Is that record safe?
Well, this is a short story, but I went down to see the Dodgers play the White Sox. Mattingly asked me to come down and see his team a little bit. Jerry Reinsdorf was in the box, and so when I walked in, Jerry and I had a real nice time chatting with each other, and he said, every year when a team gets over that loss limit, I breathe a sigh of relief because I love that record, 72-10. So obviously he's watching it carefully, and I think this Miami team could challenge it if they continue playing as they played at the end of the season this year.
You write a book. Why?
Well, it was kind of the end of the career as a coach, 20 years of coaching basketball in the NBA. And there were some things I thought could be re-emphasized that came out of Sacred Hoops, which was written about 17 years earlier. And so there's a lot of hue and cry from the fans that like that book to repeat something that was similar to that. Something about the sport, which is almost nonverbal, the essence of sport, which is that moment that you have when you feel like there's no words to describe it and there's nothing to do but just enjoy it and revel in the feeling that you get from sports.
Any topics off limit?
With us?
Yeah.
No.
No, with the book, I mean.
I felt that I didn't want to go back and rehash the Lakers situation. I mean, it happened while we were just in the final edit of the book. So I said, let's just not go back and rehash that again. There's no reason to get into the depth of that.
You would be the Lakers coach today if what?
Wow, that's a good question because I sat on that for 2 days and wondered what would compel me to come back and coach this team. Yes, I thought I could do the job. I had 5 or 6 players from the former run we had in 2011, excuse me, and I felt like they were schooled well enough in the offensive system that I ran so that they could really step right in and play. And I felt it would be pretty easy for Nash and for Howard to learn the system. It's an easy system to learn. But I never had a feeling like, it's the right thing to do. It must be done. And, I told Jeannie at one point when I went in and talked to her about it, and I said, I think maybe we can get out of the Western Conference. We're a good enough team. There's a talented enough team. But, boy, I'd sure hate to lose in the finals again. That's something I've started thinking about, how one has to beat Miami.
He's Phil Jackson joining us in our New York City Man Cave. The book is 11 Rings, The Soul of Success. Clarify something for me. Were you offered the Lakers job this last go-around?
Yes, I would say that would be yes to the answer, and the question, because it was proposed to me without any hesitation. But I was not being sold the job. They wanted to hear me out. I wanted to hear them out as to why they were doing what they were doing and what their rationale was. And I felt there wasn't a whole lot of subterfuge, any acting or any kind of pretense behind it. So I felt they're pretty honest with me.
Okay, so what happened 11th hour? Do you know all the details behind the scene that
No.
they're flirting with you? It's like you flirting with a girl and you take another girl to the prom.
Right.
They were waiting for your answer. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I would say that's fair. And the process, obviously, at the end of the process, Mitch Kupchak had asked to come along with Jim Buss. And at the end of the process, and when they were leaving, Mitch said, I'm going to have to continue interviewing people for the job. And I said, that's what you have to do. If, I turn this down, you have to be prepared to move on. And so anyway, that I knew from Mitch. But, I knew Mike Dunleavy was part of it, and they were going to talk to Mike. And, I had no idea that, although I did know that Mike D'Antoni was on the horizon as someone that they were interested in previously. I knew he had gone through a knee operation, and, I knew what it was like to go through that knee operation. You're just not ready to get back on the horse again and ride. And, so I didn't, I was not concerned about that. But, it all made sense as I kind of look at it from the other side. It kind of makes sense as to how they went.
Now, you won a title. I was joking about the CBA, but as George Karl pointed out, Phil can work with young players, maybe not the best players like he had, Michael and Scotty, and you had Shaq and Kobe. But is there a part of you that would love to have done that, to be able to take a young team and mold them into a championship team, just to quiet the critics who said, well, you always had star players. You had the best players in the game.
Well, when I came to the Bulls, it was not so. It was, Horace and Scotty were very young. Bill Cartwright was our age veteran, and John Paxson. And then we had three rookies on that team that played. Stacey King and B.J. Armstrong played a lot. So, we were a very young team, and that was the reason why we were so dynamic at that time and so good. And then, the process of it again, the next time through, was with a veteran team, the next three-peat that went on. But then we tried to take a young team back in 2005, 6 and 7. That was a pretty young group of guys. We had actually 4 rookies one time on that team. So those were young kids that were doing a lot of crazy things on the floor.
Did you know what you had when you had the quotes about Michael, comparing Michael to Kobe, and what you said about Michael, maybe what you didn't say about Kobe? Are we overplaying that?
Without a doubt. I almost felt compelled to go back and reread what was said, because, I said so many good things about both players that it created such a firestorm among devoted fans. But that's okay. I'm glad people are, dedicated to their star, their guy. It's like, the other day, Pau was talking about watching Nadal play Federer in the Italian Open. And I watched for a while, but I just can't watch Federer get beat. I just like the guy too much, and he's been such a gracious player that it's really hard to see him just get pummeled by Nadal.
Why hasn't Jordan been successful as an owner, given the fact that he's recognized as one of the great competitors of all time, has to win at everything?
In that conversation that I had at it's actually the White Sox facility down in Glenwood, Arizona, Reinsdorf said, that's a job you should take. You should take that job with Charlotte for Michael's team. And, we got talking about administration and about, how to do a proposal for putting together the right management style. And, Michael has people that are very friendly and are basically his friends in that organization. And Rangsdorff said something like, you cannot be friends with your general manager because you've got to say no, or you have to have arguments. You have to be able to really duke it out.
Wait, did Michael have a formal offer for you to coach his team?
No, he didn't.
Be a part of management?
No, he never had a formal part. But we were just talking hypothetically
Okay.
about setting it up, about a team and how you have to set it up. And I think Michael's dedicated to what he's trying to do there. And I think the thing that really gets these franchises that are in the quote unquote hinterlands of the NBA, that aren't in the major markets or aren't on the perennial top list, is that it's very difficult to get free agents there. You try to get a free agent, and you just can't pull a guy in unless you overpay them. And so it's a damned if you do type of thing. You have to work through the draft. And right now, what are your age of your draft picks? The top 10. They're 19, 20 years of age, right?
Yeah.
So you've got kids that take 3 or 4 years to mature into professional players. So it's a very difficult thing to build a team from that level. And on top of it, Michael's team, which was last year, ends up in the draft getting second. They don't get the.
What do you think of the lottery?
Well, I agree with your assistants over here who said it gives everybody an equal chance. And there were days in the NBA when teams just outright lost to have the worst record so that they could get that chance.
Well, didn't Cleveland, weren't they accused of doing that?
Yeah.
John Lucas, I think, was the coach at the time.
Right. There's a number of teams that have been accused of doing that in the past. And I think the lottery sets it up so there are no guarantees. We all look back at the one that changed the face of the NBA, and that's when David Robinson sat out with San Antonio, and they got a very poor record that year, and they ended up with Tim Duncan. Now they have 2 super players that set them up for the next 15 years, basically.
If you were taking an ingredient from Michael to give to Kobe at this stage in his career, I'll let you think about that. We'll come back with Phil Jackson. The book is 11 Rings, The Soul of Success, joining us here on The Dan Patrick Show.